In this video, we're going to be working our parabola problems again backwards. We're going to be talking about the equations and writing equations of these parabolas. The standard form of the equations of the parabola with the vertex is hk. Just a reminder, I've written both of those standard forms here, where the distance from the vertex to the focus and from the vertex to the directrix is the value of p. A reminder that if you're dealing with the first one, if p is positive, then it cups up. If p is negative, it cups down. The second one, if p is positive, it cups to the right. If p is negative, it cups to the left. So with our first one, the first thing we need to identify is the p-value. Since it cups down, that means I have a negative p-value. And the distance from my vertex to my focus is 1, 2, 3, 4. So therefore, my p-value is negative 4. My vertex is located, I put a V here, my vertex is located at 1, 0. So therefore, we have a vertical parabola. So it's going to be y equals 1 over 4p. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. So therefore, I'm going to put my negative out front. And then you have x minus your h value, how far left or right it moved. And it got moved to the right 1. And then it got moved up 0. So therefore, there's your equation. And I did forget my square there. It has to be squared in order to be a parabola. So there's my equation. The next one, it's a horizontal parabola. So that would be an x equals parabola. Since it cups to the right, that means I have a positive p. So therefore, my p is a positive 1 here. So therefore, we have x is equal to 1 over 4 times p, which would be 4 times 1. And then we need our vertex. So my vertex is located at 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5, negative 2. So pretty much the rest of it's just the transformations. Okay, we have a y in parentheses to move it down to. Since it's in the parentheses with a y, we need to put a plus 2, so it happens backwards. To move the parabola left 5, however, since this is an x equals, all we have to put is the minus 5 out at the end, and there will be the equation of your parabola. Number 3, since this is a horizontal parabola that opens to the left, that means my p will have a negative value. The distance from my vertex to my directrix is what's given here is going to be a 1, so therefore that's the same as the distance from there to my focus as well, which would also be 1. So therefore my p-value is negative 1. My vertex is located at, right here it is, at 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 1, negative 7. So therefore it's a horizontal, so let's start with x equals. 1 over 4p is going to be a negative 1 over 4 when you plug that in. To move it down 7, we're going to put a plus 7 on our y. To move it to the right 1, we're going to put a plus 1 at the end, and there's going to be your parabola. And the last one, since it's a vertical parabola, it's going to be a y equals parabola. The p-value, since it cups up, it's going to have a positive p-value. P is the distance from that vertex to the directrix. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is going to be my p-value. So I have 1 over 4 times p will be 1 over 28. My vertex for this one is located at negative 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4, negative 3. So therefore, in order to move it left 4, I'm going to put a plus 4 on my x. In order to move it down 3, I'm going to put a minus 3 at the end, and there would be the parabola. Okay, number 5, given characteristics. It does give us a hint here. It says find the vertex and p, and which is what we did in the previous problems. And once you find the vertex and p, then you're pretty much set. Determine the direction of the opening and write the equation. So they kind of gave us some steps there. So here, and you can kind of sketch these out if you need to. I have a vertex at negative 2, negative 10, so somewhere way down here. And I have a focus at negative 2, negative 9. Again, the p-value is the distance from the vertex to the focus. And you can see from negative 10 to negative 9, that'd be a distance of 1. Now, we do need to determine if our p-value is positive or negative. It's positive if it cups up. It's negative if it cups down. And remember that a parabola always cups around a focus. Therefore, since my vertex is lower than my focus, then that means it's going to cup up. So that's going to be a positive p-value. So now it's pretty straightforward. This is a vertical vertical parabola because your focus is vertical of your vertex. So therefore we have a y equals 1 over 4 times p would be 1 over 4 times x minus, okay, plus or minus. To move it here, to move it to a -2, we're going to do a +2 on our x. To move it down 10, we're going to do a -10 at the end, and there's your parabola. Okay, the next one, the vertex and the focus. Okay, my focus, if you were to plot these 2 points, -7, -1, and -10, -1. This is the vertex and this is the focus. That means that my parabola cups to the left or opens to the left. So therefore, that means that I'm going to have a p-value that is a negative. And the distance from here to here, my vertex to my focus, which is 3, is going to be the value of that p. So now that we know that it's a horizontal parabola and p is -3, I know I have an x equals equation. X is equal to 1 over 4p. That's going to be 1 over 4 times -3, which would be a -1/12. Then you have y. In order to move it to here, okay, in here with my y, let's look at our y value. To move it down 1, we're going to do the opposite inside parentheses. And then to move it left 7, we're going to do exactly what it says, the -7, and there's your parabola. Next one also gives us a vertex and a focus. 2, 8, and 7/2, 8. These two points are vertical of each other. So this will be a vertical parabola, so it's going to cup up or down. And again, the way that you determine up or down is you got to see if the focus is above or if the focus is below the vertex. If the focus is above the vertex, as it is here, then it's going to cup up because here's the focus, here's the vertex, it's going to cup around that focus. So therefore, you have a y equals parabola. We do need to know the value of our p here, and it will be a positive value because it does cup up. The distance from here to here. This is 2, this is 3.5, so that's going to be a distance of 1.5 will be our p-value. We have 1 over 4, 4 times 1.5, which would be 1 over 6. And then you have x, and we've got to move it to 2 eighths, so therefore a -2 would move it to +2, and then a +8 at the end would move it up to +8. Next one, -5, 4, and -5, -1/2. Those 2 points are again vertical of each other, so they're either going to be cupping up or cupping down. This is a vertical parabola. The vertex is above, if you were to plot these 2 points, or you can imagine it in your head, the vertex is above the focus. So therefore, since the vertex is above the focus, that means it's going to cup down. But it will be a y equals equation. But the p-value, since it cups down, will be a negative p-value. The distance from here to here is that p-value. -5 and -5, you don't really have to worry about. We're looking for at the 4 and the -1/2. That's going to be a distance of -4.5 or -4.5. So therefore, we have y equals 1 over 4 times p. 4 times 4.5, that's going to be 18. So it's going to be -1/18. Now just worry about your vertex. To move it to a -5, we're going to do x plus 5. And to move it up 4, we're going to tack on a +4 at the end, and there is your parabola. Okay, number 9. Here they give you a vertex and a directrix. Now, the directrix, we just know it's the same p distance away from the vertex as the focus is, except for it's going to be on the other side of the vertex. So you have a vertex located at -3, -7. And again, you can always sketch this. -3, -7 is somewhere down here. Then you have x equals -5. So an x equals equation is going to be a vertical line over here at -5. So therefore, this is my vertex, my directrix. That means my focus is going to be over here on the other side. This thing's going to open to the right. So that's going to be an x equals equation, and my p-value should be a positive. So therefore, to find that distance, really all you have to look at is the x equals -5 and the x equals -3, and that's going to be a distance of 2. And again, since it opens to the right, that's going to be a positive p-value. So we have x equals. We need 1 over 4 times p would be 1/8. We put our y inside of here. Now let's look at our vertex. To move it, our y value down 7, we're going to put +7. To move it left 3, we do exactly what it says. We put the -3. and there would be your parabola. Okay, number 10. Again, vertex and directrix, you just have to determine is the directrix, since it's a y equals is going to be a horizontal line, is it above or is it below? And that's going to tell us if it cups up or if it cups down. So look at our y values. You have a y value here of 1, -1, and a y value of 3/2. That means 3/2 is above that 1, -1. So that means that my parabola here is going to cup down. So therefore, I'm going to have a negative p-value since it cups down. Also, this is going to be, since you have the directrix of y equals, that's going to be a horizontal directrix. That means that this is going to be a vertical parabola. So you're going to have a y equals parabola as well. So let's look for our, first off, our p-value. It's the distance from this y value to this y value. And that's going to be a 2.5 is that distance from -1 to 1.5. So we have our equation is now y is equal to 1 over 4 times p. 4 times p would be -10, so we're going to write that as -1/10. To move it now to our vertex, our x value needs to move right 1, so we're going to put a -1 on our x. And we need to move it down 1, so we're going to put a -1 at the end to move it down 1, and there's your parabola. Number 11. The directrix is y equals again, so therefore we have a horizontal directrix. So that means that my parabola is going to cup either up or down. My vertex is located at 2, 5, which is below. If you look at these two y values, the vertex is below the directrix. So since my vertex is below the directrix, that means my parabola is going to cup down. Because again, it always cups away from the directrix. If you can think of it that way, it cups around the focus away from the directrix. So therefore, my p-value, since it cups down, will be a negative p-value. The distance from 5 to 8 would be 3, so therefore my p-value is -3. Since it is, again, we said it cups down, that's a y equals or a vertical parabola. So we have y is equal to 1 over 4p. 4 times p is -12, so that's going to be -1/12. Now let's just worry about our vertex. To move it right 2, we're going to do x minus 2 in parentheses. To move it up 5, we're going to do a plus 5 at the end, and there's your parabola. Number 11. You have an x equals directrix. An x equals directrix is going to be a vertical directrix, so therefore my parabola is either going to cup to the left or to the right. Your vertex, let's look at our x values for our vertex and the x value here. This is equal to 6 1/4. If you change it to a decimal or to a fraction here. So my vertex is located at 6. My directrix is at 6 1/4. So that would be this case. Vertex is 6, directrix at 6 1/4, slightly to the right. So my parabola is going to cup or open to the left. That would be an x equals parabola or a horizontal parabola. The p-value is going to be negative because it does open to the left. Look at the difference between 6 and 6 1/4, and that's going to tell you the distance between the vertex and the directrix, which is just -1/4. So I have x is equal to 1 over 4 times p. If you do 4 times -1/4, it gives you -1. So therefore, we have 1 over -1, or just -1, is our 1 over 4p value. Then we have y, okay, to move it down 4. Now we're just focusing on our vertex. To move it down 4, we're going to put a plus 4 in parentheses with a y. To move it right 6, we just simply do a plus 6 at the end. You don't have to put -1 if you just want to put a negative out front. There is your parabola. Okay, number 13. This one again gives you a focus and a directrix. The directrix here, x equals 5, is a vertical line. So that means that your parabola is going to either cup to the left or to the right. This is located at x equals 5. My x value of my focus, this gives you a focus. It doesn't give you a vertex. It gives you a focus. So since my focus is located at 1 -3, that's going to be to the left of my directrix. So therefore, since my focus is over here, my directrix is here, that means my parabola is going to cup around my focus, so that means it's going to cup to the left. So it's going to be an x equals parabola. We do need to worry about what is going to be my vertex here. Now, I do want to point out, since it cups to the left, my y value for my vertex will be the same as the y value for my focus. So my vertex is going to be located at something -3. Well, how do I find my x value? The x value for my vertex is going to be directly in between the x values for my directrix and for my focus. That's my vertexes. So all we have to do is look at the x value here, look at the x value here, find the number in between. Now here you could easily do that, but the number in between is the average. So you can add them, divide by 2, find the midpoint in essence, and that's going to be a 3. So my vertex is located at 3, -3. It cups to the left, so that means my p-value will be a negative. The distance from focus to vertex, which is 2, is going to be my p-value. Now we're ready to write our equation. 1 over 4p will be 1 over -8, so I'm going to write that as -1/8. Y, to focus on your vertex now, to move it down 3, we're going to put a +3 inside there with my y. To move it to the right 3, we're going to put a +3 at the end, and there is going to be this parabola. Okay, number 14. They're doing the same thing here. They give you a focus and they give you a directrix. The directrix is at y equals -2. Now, y equals -2 is a horizontal line. So let me put y equals -2. The y value here is 6, which means it's going to be a good bit above it. So there's your focus at -9, 6. So therefore, since this is my focus, this is my directrix, my parabola is going to cup around it like this. Here's going to be my vertex, which is located directly in between these two y values. The x value of my vertex, again, will be the exact same thing as the x value for my focus because they line up. So that'd be -9, comma. To find the y value, the number between 6 and -2, add them, divide by 2, and you get 2. The number between 6 and -2 is +2. So therefore, there's my vertex. Since it cups up, it's going to be a y equals parabola. We need a value for p. It is going to be positive since it cups up. The distance from 2 up to 6 would be 4. So therefore, y is equal to 1 over 4p will be 16, and that is positive. X is going to be shifted to -9, +2. So to shift it to -9, I'm going to put a +9 on my x, and I'm going to put a +2 at the end, and there is your parabola. Number 15 gives you a focus and a directrix. Once again, so I have a focus at 2 -1/2 and a directrix at y equals 5/2. Again, a y equals equation is going to be a horizontal line. So there's y equals 5/2. My y value here is -1/2. So therefore, that means it must be a good bit below it somewhere. So that means my parabola is going to cup down. It will be a y equals parabola, however, because it does cup up or down. My p-value will be a negative. The vertex is going to be located directly between the focus and directrix. So let me come over here and put the vertex. The x values will be the same because, again, they line up because of the axis of symmetry. The y value will be directly in between -1/2 and 5/2. To find the number directly in between, you add them. 5/2 and -1/2 is 4/2, which is 2, and divide that by 2, and it gives you 1. So again, all I did there was I added the two fractions, and I got 2, divided it by 2, and got 1. That's the value that's going to be directly in between the two. So now we're good to go. The distance from my vertex to either one of these things, you can go to here or to here. From 1 to -1/2, or from 1 to 5/2, is going to be a distance of 1.5. Since it cups down, that will be a negative. So let's do 1 over 4p will be -1 over 6. Our x value, to move it to 2, 1, we're going to do -2 on my x. To move it to up 1, we're going to do +1 on my y, and there is your parabola. Next one, the focus and the directrix again. Focus is located at -1/2, 3. Directrix is a vertical line. Let me draw that vertical line at x equals -15/2. I'm going to write that as -7.5. My focus is located at x equals -1/2, so somewhere over here. So we're going to cup around it. Always cup around the focus, so we're going to open to the right. So this will be an x equals, and I will have a p-value that is positive. To find that p-value, again, well, let's find our vertex first. The vertex is going to have the same y value because this is it's a horizontal parabola. So my x value is going to be different, but my y value will be the same as the focus. To find the x value, we're going to see what's between -1/2 and -15/2. So we add them. When you add them, you get -8 divided by 2 gives you -4. So therefore, there's your vertex. You can put a v in front of it if you'd like to. The distance from there to either one of these values is going to be my p-value. So from -4 to -1/2, that's a value of 3.5. So my equation is going to be 1 over 4 times that. 4 times 3.5 will be 14. So 1/14. We need a y there because this is an x equals parabola. To move the vertex up 3, we're going to do a -3 on our y. To move it left 4, you do exactly what it says, a -4, and there is your parabola. Okay, the next one's going to be a little bit tricky. Let me remind you something about the lattice rectum. The lattice rectum passes through the focus. So if this is the focus, these are the endpoints of the lattice rectum. So to find the actual focus, what you can do is find the midpoint of the endpoints of the lattice rectum. That midpoint will be the focus. So that's one way of doing this. Also, the length of the lattice rectum is going to be 4p. Remember that as well. So one thing we can do very easily to find p is the length of the lattice rectum, again, is 4p. The length of this line segment, because this is, let's see, -13.3 and 7.3, this is a horizontal line, simply find the distance from -13 to 7. That's going to be 20. So therefore, this has a length of 20, so therefore my p-value is 5. However, we do have to be careful. It does say opens up, so that's going to be a positive p-value, so we will leave it as a positive 5. So how do we find our vertex? Well, again, what I would do is I would find my focus, which is going to be the midpoint of these 2 points. So add the x's, divide by 2, gives me -6 divided by 2. Add the y's, divide by 2, there's your focus. Since it opens up, that means it opens around my focus. Here's my focus at -3.3. The vertex is going to be 5 units below that because, again, p is the distance from the focus to the vertex. So therefore, my vertex is going to be 5 units down. So that'd be at -3, -2. There's my vertex, and that's all I need. So it opens up. So therefore, that'd be y equals 1 over 4 times p, which would be 20. And then simply use your vertex to find the rest of it. It'll be an x plus 3 to move it left 3. To move it down 2, it'll be a -2. There is your parabola. Okay, the last one. Endpoints of the lattice rectum, -2, 7, and -2, 3. Those are going to be above each other. So it's going to look like this. And it says it opens to the left, so therefore that's going to be a negative p-value. So let's go ahead and write that down. P is equal to negative. Okay. The distance from here to here is 4. That's the length of the lattice rectum. And again, we know the length of the lattice rectum is always equal to 4p. When you solve that, you get a p-value of 1, but we know it's going to be negative because it opens to the left. So that's all we need from that. The focus is going to be directly in between those 2 endpoints of the lattice rectum. So to find that focus, add your x's and divide by 2. Add your y's and divide by 2. There's the focus. Okay. The vertex will be 1 unit to the right of that focus since it opens to the left. And the reason I know it's 1 unit is because p is -1. So therefore, to find our vertex, let's go 1 unit to the right, and that's going to be located at -1, 5. So therefore, we now have our parabola. X equals, because it opens left-right, it's a horizontal. 1 over 4p would be -1 over 4. To get the y to go up 5, we're going to subtract 5 from it. To get the y to go left, or get the x to go left 1, we're going to put a -1 at the end, and there's your problem.